Welcome to the Ohio Family Engagement Leadership Summit. We're glad that you could join us on this day of professional learning meant to take family, school, community partnership to the next level. My name is Sarah Owens, and I will be this session's moderator. This is session 16, the Blueprint for Strong School, Family, and Community Partnership, Training and Technical Assistance. If you have any questions, concerns, or technical issues, please message me privately in the chat. If you would like contact hours for this session, a code will be provided at the end to enter in a request form. And please be on the lookout for this code as it will only be provided once. To ensure that everyone gets the most out of today, we ask that all participants turn off their webcams and microphones. If you have any questions for the presenter, please use the chat feature and I will feature them along at the appropriate time. You can also join the conversation on Twitter and be sure to use the hashtag OHSummit24 to share your thoughts. Now I'm going to pass things on to our speaker, Catherine Thomas.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Catherine Thomas, and I am the director of the Universal Pre-Kindergarten Program with Starting Point. And so before we get started, hopefully you know you're all in the right space, right? This is the Blueprint for Strong Family and Community Engagement Partnerships, Training and Technical Assistance. I wanted to do a little quick icebreaker. So I'm going to give you a prompt, and then I'll count down to 3 or count from 3 down to 1. When I hit 1, I want you to respond in the chat. And so this is called the waterfall technique. We don't want you to think about it, overthink it, see what everyone else is writing. We want you to come genuinely and put your responses in the chat based on my prompt. So I will give the prompt and then count from 3 to 1. When I hit 1, please put your response in the chat. So the prompt is, what is the most important tool that educators need to engage families? 3, 2, 1. See, relationships, community plans, trust. Relationships, lots of relationships. Excellent. Strong communication, open communication. Very good. Excellent. Good. Relationship and communication probably are the top 2 here. Well, thank you so much for participating in that icebreaker. We're certainly going to talk about building trust as well as communication throughout our session today and our time. We're going to have questions at the end, so I'm going to get through the material. We have a short breakout work group that I would like for you all to participate in as well. Let's get started here. There we go. I want to tell you a little bit about the agency that I come from and the Universal Pre-Kindergarten Program for those of you who are not aware. It is a program within Cuyahoga County in Cleveland, Ohio, and surrounding suburbs with a mixed service delivery system. We have public schools, private schools, community-based preschools, Head Starts, and even some family childcare homes that comprise the 70-plus Universal Pre-Kindergarten sites. UPK joined the National Network of Partnership Schools back in 2007, and we are now professional partners with the National Network of Partnership Schools. And so if you know anything about NNPS, the National Network of Partnership Schools, you have seen this diagram before with schools, strong families, healthy communities, all working together to ensure that a child is successful. And so we adhere to these tenets of the model through the Universal Pre-Kindergarten Program. Our model is set up in such a way that we definitely use those 6 types of involvement. We are establishing action team for partnerships at each and every Universal Pre-Kindergarten site that we have. We are also ensuring that these sites are writing action plans for partnerships each year, linking those family engagement activities to goals or to types of involvement. We ask that our sites allocate a budget for planned activities and allocate time for monthly meetings with their action team for partnerships. So these are all the tenets of the NNPS model. And I'm going to show you a little bit later how we sort of customize that for our Universal Pre-Kindergarten sites. Again, if you've heard of the National Network of Model Partnership Schools Family Engagement Model, you have certainly heard of the 6 types of involvement. And so the reason why we chose this model is because it was a framework which allows for us to make certain concessions to make it fit for each of our universal pre-kindergarten sites. And so we certainly have activities at each site around parenting, where we're assisting families in understanding child development. We have communication, and we emphasize that the communication needs to be two-way. It's not going from school to home, but also from home to school. We emphasize volunteering in a unique way. Not all parents can come into the early care and education site and volunteer their time in person. And so we advocate for other ways, some out-of-the-box thinking as to how folks can volunteer, whether that be translating documents into a different language, creating art activities at home, bringing items into the classroom. There's a myriad of ways that folks can volunteer without stepping into the building. Learning at home. This is involving family with their children and learning activities at home. So we don't say homework in early childhood, right? That's the H word. There are activities where family members are engaging in learning activities with their children. And I'll talk a little bit about an innovative way that we do this in UPK called the Family Learning Labs, which is brand new for us this year. Again, showing how you can customize this model for your own individual schools and school districts. Decision making. This is the crux of the NNPS model, right? This is where the action team resides. This is having those folks come together on equal footing, making decisions about family engagement for the entire site. And then collaborating with community, coordinating those resources and services for students, families, and schools with businesses, agencies, and other groups, and providing services to the community as well. And within UPK, we have a very unique model in which we have 2 regional resource coordinators whose main responsibility is to make sure that our families have what they need. So we call our model a family-centered model or a 2-generation model, in that we are just as concerned about the well-being of the entire family as we are about our universal pre-kindergarten student. And so what that means is that we want to make sure that parents have their basic needs met. And so if there are resources that we can put into place to ensure that they're successful and their child is successful, that is exactly what we're going to do within that universal pre-kindergarten program. So I talked about this, the type 5, which is that action team structure a little bit earlier. And then this is where those customizations come in. So for our sites within UPK, we have sites with 6 to 12 members of their action team. So 2 to 3 of those members must be teachers, and 1 must be a teacher at the pre-K level. And the reason why we emphasize this is that many of our sites serve children who are younger and older than pre-K. So they may have infant and toddler classrooms, they may have some school-age classrooms. What we want to make sure is that at least one of those teachers is at the pre-K level, because that teacher would be bringing the voice of a pre-kindergarten teacher to that particular action team. Our action teams must have 2 to 3 parents or family members, and at least 2 of those must be at the pre-K level. Again, we emphasize that because, believe it or not, we do have some family members that have moved on from pre-K and their children are now in kindergarten and beyond, and they still want to sit on that action team. They realize the value of it, and they want to sit and continue to contribute to that site. So, but at least 2 of those members must be family members of current UPK children. There's also other representatives on the action team, such as the site administrator, principal, or director. Again, remember, it's a mixed delivery system. So depending on if it's a school or a childcare center, it would be the principal, director, or administrator. And then optional, 1 to 2 other folks. So if it's a Head Start site and there's family service workers or family advocates, other community members who would want to participate in the action team, they are certainly able to do that at our sites as well. We ask that when folks join, they commit to at least 1 year, because what we have seen is that a lot of folks are really gung-ho at the beginning of the year, and some of that interest can wane as the year progresses. So we want folks to say, yes, we're going to commit to this 1 school year. We're going to attend these monthly action team meetings and contribute to the work of the action team. We have folks who sort of organize their action team in different ways. It could be a whole group working together, making the decisions, or you can have a chair or a co-chair. We really emphasize that the features of the action team are flexible and need to fit the school's condition. So if you look at our 70 plus UPK sites, the action team could look very different in one site to another. And it doesn't mean that they're not doing fidelity to the model or they're not adhering to the tenets of the model. What it means is that they are really reaching out to their folks, their action team members, to make sure that this team and the work that the team is doing is conducive to the environment at their site. And so we encourage that 100% wholeheartedly. The next step is obviously that action plan. So the action teams work around engaging families and ensuring that there's events and activities that are engaging for families throughout the year. Things don't happen unless you write it down. So we want to give folks the opportunity to make sure that items happen, that they plan, and that they've been planful and intentional in what they want to do around the action team. There are two different types of plan from NNPS. Type G, which is based on goals. And if you have not seen this document, this is just the first page of Type G, where you're writing down your desired goal. What are the activities that you're going to do for that goal? Which of the 6 types of involvement that we talked about earlier is included, and it can be more than one. The date of the activity, what needs to be done and when, who's in charge, and what are the resources. So these seem, like typical items, but I will say that the folks who are the most successful with their work around family engagement are the ones who really plan and set aside the time to be thoughtful about this plan and to include things that are going to help to improve their site, the conditions at their site. And so you can, really like rush through this and complete the plan and turn it in, or you can really take the time to work with your team to make sure that these items are relevant for the families at your particular individual site. The next type is T, and it's similar to G, but this one is based on the 6 types of involvement, where you're just going down each of those 6 types and writing all of the activities that you're going to do for parenting, all of the activities for communicating, volunteering, decision-making, learning at home, and collaborating with the community. But as you can see, we're also asking here for your dates, what needs to be done for the activity, who's in charge, what do you expect to gain from that? And I think this is probably the most difficult area, because people just like to write, well, we're going to have a family literacy night because we did that last year and it was a great time. We really want folks to make a concerted effort to be intentional. And part of being intentional is, why are you doing it? And it should never be just because we've always done it, right? It needs to be linked to some goal that you have, whether that be to improve the literacy skills of children or to increase phonemic awareness. Whatever that goal is, it needs to be set aside and really worked through. And how you're going to measure it, it needs to be something that is actually measurable. So a lot of times folks get caught up in numbers, right? So we're hosting a literacy night, and I'm going to measure the success of this literacy night by how many parents attended. That's not really a good way to measure the results of what you wanted to happen, right? Because you can have bodies present, but that doesn't mean they're engaged. That doesn't mean they understand what those literacy activities are about, or even that they're going to engage in those literacy activities with their children at home. So we want to make sure that how we're measuring it is based upon the results that we want to see happen. And it can be, improved skills on an assessment. It can be any number of things, but it needs to be something that is actually measurable and not just attendance based. Here is, I think, one of the most exciting things that we do at UPK is coming up with a theme every year to guide our work around family engagement. And so in years past, again, we've been doing this since 2007, all of our themes here are listed. We've had several themes that were award-winning by the National Network of Partnership Schools. Many of those activities have been highlighted in their Promising Practices publications over the years. But we found ourselves in a predicament where we have so many themes that it was getting a little cumbersome for folks to include all of them in the work. And then it wasn't really individualizing their activities at the site level. So we narrowed it down. And as you can see here at the top, there are action team themes that must be present. These here at the top. And then there's some that are additional, and you can include them if you would like. So right now, I would like for folks to either come off of mute if you feel comfortable, or type into the chat. what is an activity that you've done at your site or you've seen done in a school or a school district around involving fathers in partnership? And are they able to come off of mute, Sarah?
Yes.
Okay. So any activity that you heard of that you thought was just phenomenal in terms of involving fathers or male role models? You keep thinking about that. How about a celebrating diversity activity? I think I see one in the chat. Mm-hmm. And my grandson's school has a group called the WB Dogs. I love that. Donuts and story time with dads, guys with ties, mentorship. Love that. Wonderful. So one of the things that we have found with that is that a lot of times folks are a little turned away when you use father or dads if their children at their particular site don't have a lot of male role models in the home, which is why we emphasize it doesn't necessarily have to be dad. It can be grandpa. It can be an uncle. It can be a male neighbor. So I appreciate the grandpa comment there. Okay. Some of the other things that we must do as part of our action team work at Universal Pre-Kindergarten is to host 2-gen activities. And so for us, I talked about family-centered preschool and how we take a 2-generation approach. We really want to make sure that families have what they need in order to be successful. And one of the ways that we do that is that we ensure that there's something on that action plan around the parents either obtaining a degree of some sort or some training or a certificate. And so we have sites that will, request that a person from Tri-C come on and talk to their parents about going back to school, or Cleveland State, or from College Now. I have some student debt that I need to get rid of before I would be able to engage in another educational opportunity. And so we make sure that parents have what they need as far as that is concerned as well. So those are our themes. And obviously, as far as that, the virtually engaging is concerned, that came up in the year 2000 with our pandemic, right? We had not really engaged families virtually up until that point. And so now we are carrying that on with our best practices, because there are some times and instances where it is better to engage families virtually, or you're going to cast that net a little bit wider if you have a virtual event. So speaking of grandparent events, we've had a site that had grandparents to Zoom in from France and Zoom in from other parts of Europe who ordinarily wouldn't have been able to be a part of that grandparent experience because they weren't going to fly in to the U.S. to their child's early childhood setting for that particular event, but they were able to do so via Zoom. And so we definitely encourage that. And so here is our latest innovation in family engagement, going back to our type 4 learning at home. And again, we're calling these our family learning labs. Each of the family learning labs consists of a book of the month with a QR code where families can just read along via YouTube. Learning objectives, which contain tips and additional activities for families to engage in. An activity to be shared with their UPK site. So this is how we're making sure that the parents are doing the activity at home with the child. They bring that product or that project back into the Universal Pre-Kindergarten site. And then a reflection code, because we want to hear about it. We want to know what parents think about the activity. Is this something they enjoy doing with their child? Did the child enjoy the activity? And we're going to take that feedback to build on our family learning labs as well. Right now, we have 8 curated family learning labs that we're going to send out to our families from October through May. And these are to enhance literacy skills and STEAM skills. So 1 month, as you can see here, the first month, October, is a literacy family learning lab. And then for the next month, November, it will be STEAM, and then literacy, and then STEAM. So again, we're honing in on those early learning skills, but we're also developing that nurturing relationship between parents and children and giving them the opportunity to bring some finished product back into their UPK site. And at that time, what we want our UPK folks to do is to highlight this work, right? Whether that be a gallery walk or create an event based on a family learning lab, have other families walk around and see what the other children have done in terms of these projects. And so this is another way to add an activity to our action teams, our action plans, I'm sorry. Right now, we're going to move into our training and technical assistance. So I've laid out for you the tenets of NNPS, what they require, a little bit of how we've tweaked it to meet our needs within UPK. But one of the major things that we do at Starting Point is training. So we are a child care resource and referral agency. Our job is to train and make sure that early care and education professionals are trained in the latest innovation in early childhood, right? And so as far as universal pre-kindergarten is concerned and NNPS model is concerned, these are the trainings that we host every single year. So I don't know if some of you were able to go to the mid-afternoon session that I did on the panel. This, to me, is one of the most important parts of engaging families, right? You can have a model with a book or charts or plans that are all laid out, but if you don't have that time where you're meeting together to discuss how you're going to make this work, networking with other sites to see how they have been successful, where their challenges are, meet the needs of the families together, learning from one another, I think that there's something missing in that. So we make sure that we're meeting with our action teams on a regular basis. And as you can see, we start right at the beginning of the school year in September with an action team orientation, with a action team refresher for those who are familiar with the model, but just need to be freshened up a little bit on the tenets of the model. We have some action team office hours where sites can just pop in and ask any question that they want to ask about convening their action team, who needs to sit on the team, writing their action plans, anything that they want to know about action plans. We set aside time for that. And then in January, we come together for best practices in family engagement, where we share some best practices. In May, we talk about evaluation because, again, we don't want to continue doing things just because we've always done them. We want to build upon best practices and do what works and think about some of the challenges that we had this particular year, making sure that we don't take those challenges into the next year. And then in June, an end of the year celebration. So right now for our breakout, what I want to do, and I'm not sure, Sarah, you let me know how many folks we have. For each of these different trainings or meetings, we're going to break you up into breakout groups, and based on your group number, you're going to come up with some agenda items or an activity that could be done at one of these trainings or meetings. Okay? So if you, for instance, if you're in group 1, you would come up with 3 either agenda items or activities that you could do at an action team orientation. Same thing with the refresher, the same thing with the office hours, and all the way down to the end of the year celebration.
Okay, so we have 16. So I'm going to open up the rooms, and we have 6 rooms. Does that sound okay?
Okay,
and just gonna,
6 rooms.
And I'm just going to have it so that they can jump into the room that they want to go into. Is that?
You might want to automatically put them in just to make sure that there's enough in each group.
Okay.
So for the reporting out. So, and when you're doing that, make sure that someone is willing to report out and let us know what you talked about in terms of those agenda items and activities.
Right. Here we go.
Welcome back, everyone. Hopefully you had some robust discussions about family engagement trainings, topics, activities, and agenda items that you would discuss at each of these particular meetings or trainings. And so let's start with group 1, action team orientation. What are some of the things that you would talk about or that you would do during an action team orientation? Who's our group 1 spokesperson?
So we kind of just spoke together about the different things that our schools do as far as family engagement. So as far as like an action team orientation, we would probably just kind of share what the action team is going to be doing. and then just kind of give an overview of how we could kind of implement those things into the family engagement activities.
And I'll tell you, Baylor, that's pretty much what we do. So this is our opportunity to get everyone on the same page. We've done this in different ways in the past. We've done it with the whole action teams meeting together. So every site and all of their action team members meeting together. We found that, time, it just wasn't really conducive to do that. So what we started to do was to train one person from the action team and then have that person be responsible for taking it back. There's something that can be lost in translation with that as well. So we're building on our best practices as we go. But the most important thing at the action team orientation is to make sure that everyone knows the model that you're using, what the expectations are, and particularly what the expectations of those action team members are. So that's awesome. I don't think, Sarah, we had anyone for the refresher, right? So let's go into 3, the action team office hours. So if you were to host office hours for the action team, how would that go? Who's the reporter for group 3? Or it might have been group 2.
I was in group 3 and we were unclear on what we were supposed to be doing. So we didn't realize it was action team office hours. So we talked about family engagement stuff.
Okay,
I apologize about that.
Oh, no problem. No problem. What did you talk about?
We talked about that we both liked that example of the learning labs. And we were talking about during the pandemic how we did a lot of those kind of recorded, using social media or using technology to reach more families. And that coming out of the pandemic, a lot of us stopped doing that because we didn't have to, but it is worth bringing it back to be more accessible to families. So we talked about different activities that we did and what worked.
Wonderful. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So is there anyone on the call who has had office hours for anything related to family engagement or the National Network of Partnership Schools model? If you could unmute. So we've done office hours in 2 ways. One of which being, just as I said earlier, that open-ended time where all of our sites have access to the Zoom link where they can just pop in, ask a question, pop back out, and go on their merry way. We've also done it based on topics. So let's say we had a 4-hour Zoom office hours. We would separate those hours. The first hour would be about the action team. The second, the action plan. The third was, I believe, family engagement events and activities. And the fourth was data collection, whether that be the hard copy documents that we collect or the database system that we use to enter our family engagement activities. I will say, separating it by topic, we had way more participation than just having people drop in. I think if you don't give them some structure around the types of questions, people can be a little uncomfortable with just dropping in and thinking, well, who else is going to be in there while I'm asking my question? But with the topic-based time frames, we definitely had a whole lot more folks to participate. But I also think it's very important. Anytime you're asking someone to do something, whether you're meeting with them, quarterly to discuss those items or not, it's always a good idea for them to be able to reach you if they have a question in between the time that you would meet again. And so I think these office hours for us have been very effective. Right. So moving on to best practices in family engagement, the next group. What activities would you have for that or agenda items for a best practices meeting?
Is that group 4?
I believe it is.
All right. This is Ed. We had a great conversation. Couple things came out of it. One, I'm from SST 7, which is a professional development group. There's 16 of our sites in the state, and we do professional development. That being said, we talked about, I did at least a little bit about, and they presented earlier in a panel, Mansfield City, and their best practices engagement is a couple things. One, they have a action team in every single building now. They developed that over 3 or 4 years. And one thing I can remember, because we do support them, and and I think they still continue to do it, but one of their practices is they're also tied into literacy, and they have some literacy specialists in their school district. I know they did it for pre-K and second and third grade, but they send home literacy bags to parents. In those bags, they have a book. For the preschool, they have a book. I can't remember the title, but it gives parents kind of suggestions on what to do. I think one was on colors, so go around and is there a purple color, a red color in your house, those kind of things. And so they do that, and they have instructions. They put materials in there, everything you need to actually do the activity. They'll put sticky notes, highlighters, crayons, etc. And then the other thing that was amazing to me is that we now will be able to support Galleon City, which is right down the road from our SST. They have a new person, Jessica, who is now doing family engagement. They have action teams. She's not sure, how they're operating, what they're doing. We were not, at least I wasn't aware that they had action teams. So we connected. So we're going to wind up for our SST to support whatever level those action teams are as far as where they need to grow and what they need to do. So that's kind of it. And I apologize. I got emergency text the last 2 minutes, so we had another member, and I don't know if they want to share anything else because I was kind of faded out for a second. And I just simply said, you can figure it out. Leave me be. No, not quite.
All right. Does Ed's partner have anything else to add?
Anything else anybody wants to add?
I didn't really have anything specific to add, but it was great. I think we talked a little bit about this. It was great to kind of hear what is happening in a lot of the other places around family engagement and bringing families in and really merging those relationships. So did a great job, Ed.
Yes, Ed, thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Jasmine. And so for our best practices in family engagement meeting, as with all of these meetings, these are all members of all of the action teams within UPK come together for all of these meetings. So for best practices, we allow them to run the agenda. Like, we want to hear the highlights from some of the great things that you talked about, Ed, that are happening in some of the sites that you're responsible for. Like, what are you doing? What's your best effort in family engagement that yielded either the most folks or had the most positive comments about how everything went? That's what we want them to share with one another. Because again, when I'm training and talking to folks about this model, what I want to know, or what I want them to know, is that the answers are already in the room. So for every challenge that you have with family engagement, there is a site in this room who is already went beyond that challenge and turned it into a success. And so that's what we like to do at our best practices. We've organized them by types. So we may have someone come and present about what they're doing with parenting, what they're doing with communicating, such as classroom apps and things of that nature. What is a great volunteering activity? So we can do all of the 6 types, or we just let them come in and talk about what they want to talk about as far as what was successful for them. So we really enjoy. That's one of my favorite meetings of the year, is our best practices in family engagement meeting. All right, moving on to preparing for NNPS evaluation. What would a training or meeting look like for talking about the evaluation? Who is our Group 5 reporter?
Hello, yes, that was myself, and I was partnered with Miss Nacy. So we actually, it kind of sounded like we went in a different direction. Miss Nacy, I don't know if you want to come on and share a little bit about what you're doing. What it sounded like was that it wasn't so much evaluating, but the way she does family engagement in her unique role.
Yeah, I don't mind. Hello, everyone. My name is Miss Nacy. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I have a nonprofit just for them, Ohio, where I provide social services and resources. I have contracted with community schools in Columbus, where I became their family and community liaison, which allowed me to start coming to a lot of these trainings to Ohio State and just getting all the good juices and information to make my programming stuff a lot better. So with what I end up doing is going in, assessing, assisting the kids with any type of barriers, home barriers, things like that. Partner with the parents and the teachers and the principals, and just providing wraparound services. I provided a lot of family and community engagement activities and events. We'll have like family literacy night where the parents come in and we play different games with letters and spelling bees, and we'll have like health and fitness, doing relay races and bounce houses and all that. And we had a parent night where we had the parents come in and learn about their taxes and get tax information. They learned about financial literacy and budgeting and credit cards and different activities like that. So yeah, that's in a nutshell, pretty much what I tried to provide for about 3 community schools here in Columbus, Ohio.
Awesome. Miss Nacy, can you tell me, how do you know that those events are successful? Do you do anything with the parents to gauge that?
Well, a lot of it is, a lot seems to be by turnout. They noticed when the schools kind of noticed when they planned events, there wasn't a good turnout without me. And I don't want to toot my horn, but I am very proactive. I am very interactive. I am an extrovert. I love to get out there. I talk to everybody and anybody. And yeah, that's the turnout. So we get a lot of people to come in. And then when it's when the principals want to like specifics, they kind of tell me what they're looking for. Like, Miss Nisi, we want you to talk in regards to dyslexia. We have a couple parents in regards to that, or the IEPs or the 504s. So I kind of, do a sub-informational session with them. But other than that, I just try to let the principals and the staff try to tell me what they need and just go from there.
So Miss Nacy, you are the secret sauce in Columbus.
Yes, ma'am, I am. And I try not to tell people that, but I don't want to toot my own horn, but I do pretty dang on good, ma'am. Yes, I do. Yes,
Awesome.
I do. My only thing is that the funding out here is very, scarce, and you're doing a lot of competing. And I'm not a person, like I said, to toot my own horn. I just do what I do for the kids. I get up every morning, and that's what I love to do. So that's what I'll continue to do, with or without the funding, and I'll just find it some way.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So Courtney, I'm going to ask you to come off of mute and talk a little bit about evaluating. So in terms of like some of the things that Ms. Nacy shared, or some of the things that we do at UPK. So Courtney is a family engagement specialist within the UPK program, one of my team members, a very valued team member. Talk to us about the evaluation.
Yeah, so the evaluation piece is really just all about that self-reflection. You do that in everything. You do that as a teacher. You're always self-reflecting, your practices when you're working with children and families. So thinking about the family engagement events that you had throughout the year, and how did they go? Again, like we asked, how did you measure that success? And then was it successful? So when you talk about, your events being successful, what made it successful? Is this something that you're going to repeat next year? Is this something that you are going to tweak and make it even better? And then in the same note, thinking about what maybe didn't go so well, you didn't quite have the turnout you wanted or the engagement you wanted. So talking about what could make that better in the future. Would you like to repeat it in a coming school year? How will you repeat it? How will you make it better? Just really that reflection piece, and thinking about celebrating your successes, what you're going to repeat, and then, what maybe could be done better in order to continue to engage those families.
Awesome. And I will say that with that, we'll do it anecdotally, maybe not in a formalized way, unless you set aside the time to do that. And that's what we do at our May evaluation meeting. We're giving folks the opportunity to review those items, review those action team items activities that they completed, and determine if that item is going to move forward on the action plan for the next year. But again, giving the time to do it is essential, because otherwise it will not happen. All right. Last but certainly not least, an end of the year celebration for your action team. What would that look like? Group 6.
Well, actually, the person I was in the group with was not able to unmute, so we were not able to discuss anything. And I work at a public library, and I was just trying to find ideas on how I could be a better partner to the schools and things like that, is why I've been here today. But
Okay, let me tell you, I definitely have some ideas about that.
Yeah.
When we talked about the action team members earlier on, the community member, we have many of our sites within UPK that have the local librarian as an action team member. And what wonderful resources you could bring to an action team at a school near you. The programming that you have at your library, it could also be the same librarian who comes in and reads to the children, or the children going to a field trip at the library, engaging with that same librarian in that way. So there's a whole lot of ways that the library can assist with the action team and pushing forth family engagement efforts.
Yeah, I just hope that our local schools, I don't know if they are doing any of these things. We know I have one school in our district that does a family, well, we have 2 that do family literacy nights, and we do go there and are present at those things. But I was thinking about, the year end of celebration and some ideas that you could probably do some silly awards, for different things throughout. And if you could give an award or something to people who made it to the most meetings, or, ideas like that. But I think the important thing is just to make it fun and to just congratulate them with all the hard work that they've done for the year, and, just pump them up and let them know they're doing a really good job.
Well, you hit it right on the head. I was going to ask, have you been to one of our end of the year celebrations at UPK? So we do exactly that. We reserve space. We've had it at the Cleveland Metro Park Zoo. We've had it at the Great Lakes Science Center, the Botanical Gardens, totally free for all action team members and their families. We feed them. They engage in activities. We give giveaways, raffles, acknowledge folks. We give away awards. I think last year we had the Best Named Action Team Award. We did some awards for promising practices, everything that you talked about. So we know that these folks have worked hard during the year being a part of the action team, attending all of these meetings and trainings, and we use that day, typically the first week in June, to celebrate their successes. So you hit it right on the head. All right. Thank you so much for participating in that activity. It was a way for me to share with you what we do within UPK, but also to get some more ideas about some things that either you do or things that we can do moving forward. So thank you for that. So aside from the training, next step is our technical assistance. And so in relation to family engagement, all of our UPK sites receive at least 5 visits from our family engagement specialist. And Courtney, who spoke earlier, is one of those specialists. We have another as well. And so it starts with an administrative visit. We want to make sure that the person in charge, whether it be the administrator, director, or principal, knows about the National Network of Partnership Schools model and all of the requirements that we have for UPK. So we like to start off with that meeting so that that person is on board. The next one is our action team technical assistance visit. And this is where the family engagement specialist, either virtually or in person, talks to the action team at each of our UPK sites. Again, going over the requirements for the model, what we're expecting them to do, thanking them for their participation in the action team, and making sure that they're prepared to move forward for the year. The next type of visit is our teacher TA visits, where the family engagement specialist meets directly with our UPK teachers. We have about 20 curated lesson plans with different topics such as all of the 6 types of involvement, the NNPS framework as a whole, effective communication with families, virtually engaging, family service learning. If it's related to family engagement, I can guarantee you we have a lesson plan for it, but we also are able to cultivate additional lesson plans based on the request of the teacher. So this is important to us because we want to make sure that the information that we're sharing is valuable to them. It's information that they want to hear and things that they want to work on in terms of improving their engagement at the classroom level. And so, as I said, about 2 of those visits. And then there's an action team observation visit. So not to be confused with the action team technical assistance visit. For this visit, we are literally observing what's going on at the action team using a rubric that we give to them ahead of time to provide feedback on how they might improve that action team meeting. Or if they're doing a great job, we say, hey, great job, and we'll see you next year. Okay. And then the final type of visit is an event observation visit. So you all have talked about many different kinds of family engagement events, literacy nights and health fairs, things of that nature. We have to go and observe at least one of those visits at each of our UPK sites. And similarly to the action team observation, we have a rubric, which we give to them ahead of time. And that is just a way for us to provide feedback. Neither of the observation visits are punitive. It's about building on best practices and making sure that they're maximizing the space that they have, the time that they have, and the types of events that they're having at each site. And so our sites are typically really good to hear from us in terms of what we think they could do to make things a little bit better. Or once again, if everything went well, we tell them great job and see you next year. So within a 1 year period of time, 5 of the visits that they received are in relation to family engagement.
Catherine, we're about 6 minutes out.
All right. So I will finish up the last minute before we open up to questions with data collection. So to ensure fidelity to the model, we do 2 things, one of which is collect certain documents, and the other is ensure that our folks are entering their family engagement visits into a Child Plus system. So for the documents that we collect, if the action team is meeting on a monthly basis, we're requiring from them 4 sets of agendas, attendance sheets, and meeting minutes for 4 meetings. And then for that event, 1 event, we collect an event flyer, photos, activity sheets, attendance sheets, and their family engagement surveys for at least 1 event. And then for our teacher family engagement visits, we have some surveys that we do pre and post because we want to make sure that our technical assistance visits are effective. And we do that virtually through Google Docs. So they don't have to fill out anything as far as paper copies are concerned. And then Child Plus, again, is the database system that we use where every family engagement meeting, event, activity that is hosted at a particular UPK site, they must enter that into the Child Plus system where we're able to see, oh, they had this many meetings and this many family engagement activities for this particular year. And we definitely keep track of that and provide feedback to our sites based on that as well. So in a nutshell, that is UPK at starting point as far as family engagement is concerned. And we will open it up for questions. Sarah. You're on mute, Sarah.
Sorry.
No
I'm
problem.
not seeing any in the chat yet.
You don't have any questions, any ideas, suggestions, something great that you're doing at your site that we can share with other folks that they can duplicate? Open to all of that. It's late on a Friday. Last session.
Hello. I'm sorry. This is Miss Nisi again.
Hey, Miss Nisi.
I do know that our library, I know the lady was asking some questions in regards to her library, how she can partner. And at Columbus Metropolitan Library here in Columbus, Ohio, is very big. And, you know, they have scattered sites everywhere. Sometimes they're actually they're competing with, you know, trying to get kids because they have so many, you know, things. But I do know I do know that kids love the media, the social media, and they had a lot of things going on, like YouTube, teaching kids how to do YouTube at the Metropolitan Library. They had kids doing puppets, the smaller kids doing puppets, making puppets so they can do their little puppet show. I know that they also had like the dragons and unicorn party event, and kids got to, you know, make their own dragons and unicorns or whatever. And they had face painting and things like that. And I also know that they did I think it was part of like kind of like a COSI, but not like a COSI, but it was like a STEM where they were like doing some type of what's his name, Bill Nye the Science Guy type of experiment at the Metropolitan Library. So just to throw some things out there, maybe you can go to a school and just start offering like many things like that from the library that kind of like interests a book, that kind of like, something like that. I don't know.
That is awesome. Perfect. Love that. Great ideas. Appreciate it. Thank you all. Appreciate your time and attention. Stop sharing. I think you have some stuff, Sarah, to close out with.
Yes, thank you, Catherine, for sharing your time and knowledge with us today. Please join me in thanking Catherine in the chat. I also want to thank all of you for spending your day with the Ohio Family Engagement Leadership Summit. While we hope you can take some knowledge from today and apply it to your work tomorrow, the learning doesn't stop here. Be sure to be on the lookout for emails from the Ohio Statewide Family Engagement Center for follow-up opportunities to this summit. To ensure that we've met your needs and follow up appropriately, please take our survey I've just put into the chat. And after you've taken the survey, you'll be prompted to enter all of today's session codes. And if you would like to receive contact hours, just complete that. And the code for this session is design. Thank you again for attending today, and stay connected. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, everybody.